ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishnapreshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Today we're reading from Canto 4, Chapter 3, text number 16. So the chapter is titled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The great, I'll do word to word first and then I'll read the Sanskrit. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, the great Lord replied, Tvaya, by you, Uditam, said, Shobhanam is true. Eva, certainly. Shobhane, my dear beautiful wife. Anahutaha, without being invited. Api, even. Abhiyanti, go. Bandhushu, among friends. Te, those friends. Yadi, if. Anutpadita dosha drishtayaha, not finding fault. Baliyasa, more important. Anatmya madena, by pride caused by identification with the body. Manyuna, by anger. Just one moment. Hare Krishna, my apologies. So again, continuing from Canto 4, Chapter 3, Text 16. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tvayoditam Shobhanam Eva Shobhane Anahuta Apyabhyanti Bandhushu Te Yadyanutpadita Dosha Drishtayo Baliyasanatmyamadena Manyuna Tvayoditam Shobhanam Eva Shobhane Anahuta Apyabhyanti Bandhushu Te Yadyanutpadita Dosha Drishtayo Baliyasanatmyamadena Manyuna Tvayoditam Shobhanam Eva Shobhane Anahuta Apyabhyanti Bandhushu Te Yadyanutpadita Dosha Drishtayo Baliyasanatmyamadena Manyuna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great Lord replied, My dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited. And this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with a guest because of bodily identification and thereby become angry towards him. Lord Shiva could foresee that as soon as Sati reached her father's house, her father, Daksha, being too puffed up because of bodily identification, would be angry at her presence. And although she was innocent and faultless, he would be mercilessly angry towards her. Lord Shiva warned that since her father was too puffed up by his material possessions, he would be angry, and this would be intolerable for her. Therefore, it was better that she not go. This fact was already experienced by Lord Shiva because although Lord Shiva was faultless, Daksha had cursed him in so many harsh words. Again, the translation one more time. The great Lord replied, My dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited. And this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with the guest because of bodily identification and thereby become angry towards him. So, welcome everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, this chapter is basically a conversation between Lord Shiva and Sati. So, the previous chapter we saw how Daksha had a yajna, or rather, there was an insult and counter insults that were happening between Nandishvara, Bhrigumuni, so many things were spoken. And devotees had a field day talking about the etiquette that time. And before that, we spoke about the glories of Lord Shiva, right? So when this cursing and counter cursing was happening, he became morose and he left the place. And then we hear how the sacrifices seems like Daksha continued, and thousands of years passed like that. And this chilly, frosty relationship between Daksha and his son-in-law and his daughter, Sati and Lord Shiva, it continued. This frosty relationship continued. And so when this time, when he was having another big yajna, Lord Shiva was not invited. So basically, this chapter structure is so far is that the first four verses were sacrifice of Daksha. Then the next 10 verses, Sati tries to convince Lord Shiva. And now Lord Shiva is going to speak. From text 15 on to 25, those 11 verses, Lord Shiva is going to give his reasons why she shouldn't go. So, and Sati, she comes up with a lot of reasoning, right? Like my teacher was telling me that she gave 13 reasons why she should go. You know, she tries to establish connection between her and Daksha. She tries to establish connection between Lord Shiva and Daksha, right? You're his son-in-law, he's your father-in-law. Then she's trying to act on vanity. She's saying all the demigods are going. You're the best amongst them. Shouldn't you be going? And then she uses tact when she is saying that. She's saying, if you desire, I'd like to go with you. And then she says, I'd like to meet them. I'd like to dress up. I'd like to accompany you, right? And when, so, she's speaking about the social structure. Like she's saying demigods are going. I see these airplanes. All of that. Now she's saying she's getting into a personal side. She's feeling excluded. She's feeling left out. So she's feeling all of those emotions. So now what she's saying is, I am very anxious to go. So remember, before she said, if I can accompany you if you'd like to go. And slowly the nature of desire is such that it just grows. Lust is this tendency for us to enjoy separately from Krishna. And so the nature of lust is that it just grows. And so one loses one's perspective. So initially she said that if you'd like to go, I'd like to accompany you and things like that. But now she's saying, I am anxious to go. So somewhere she's diverging from Lord Shiva at that point in time. She then refers to Lord Shiva as Aja. So this is an important point because Aja means we understand somebody who doesn't take birth. Um, so she is saying you don't have parents, right? We understand Lord Shiva he appeared from, when Brahmaji became very angry, right? So he appeared from that. So in that sense, he doesn't have parents. Even though Lord Brahma, we say that, he doesn't have parents. Lord Shiva also is born, he's appearing out of the anger. So she's saying, you don't understand this because you don't have parents. If you had, you would know that, what the relationship between a parent and child would be like. Things happen. We get angry, we get upset, but that doesn't mean our relationship is cut off. Then she's using another, she's appealing to him in various ways. So she's saying, you are unborn, you are beyond the modes, but I am not like that. That is not my adhikar, right? Truthfully, I'm not in that position. And I can't uh, feign a position that is greater than what my adhikar is. I really am attached to my family and I'd like to go. Then she's saying, you are a personality that drank the poison. You do things for others' welfare. You do things for others' protection, for others' benefit. Can't you do this for me? So she's tugging at his emotional strings. Um, and then she's saying, you have accepted me as half of your body, right? You are known as Ardhanarishwar. So typically, a wife is known as Ardhangani, meaning, Ardha means half, and Angani is the body. The wife is normally known as that way. But Lord Shiva, on the other hand, is known as Ardhanarishwar, meaning he's accepted his wife as half of his own body. So she's saying, you love me so much. You're devoted to me. So can't you let me go? So in this way, she has gone through a gamut of reasons, 13 reasons she has provided. So now we have come to this place where Lord Shiva is now beginning to speak. And Maitreya Rishi says that he remembered the malicious and the heart-piercing speech delivered by Daksha. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prabhupada writes in the previous purport that he quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he's saying that Sati, remember Sati called Lord Shiva as Aja and the one beyond the modes. But it seems like Lord Shiva remembered those words of Daksha and he's reminding Sati, hey, your father, this is what he did, right? So in that sense, it seems like there is a tinge of the modes. So this is an important consideration considering, like based on today's verse. What today's verse, Lord Shiva is saying that you want to go to a home of your father who is a fault finder, right? So he seems like he remembers and he is reminding. And so the contrast, the foil that Lord Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is placing is that these emotions of fear, hatred, possessiveness, anger, bewilderment, they are emotions. But when do they become transcendental and when do they become material? When are they in Shuddha Sattva and when is there in Sattva? Right? When we talk about Sattva, there is still a tinge of mode of ignorance and passion. It is still in the material modes. Shuddha Sattva, on the other hand, is transcendental. Like, for example, Lord Shiva, not Lord Shiva, sorry, Krishna, he felt fear, right? We hear in Damodarashtakam, tears flowed from his eyes, and Mother Yashoda, seeing the fear in his eyes, she threw away the stick. So we see that fear. There is he has this possessiveness when it comes to Radha. He has lusty desires when it comes to gopis. He has anger. He exhibits anger when he is defeating demons, and he is bewildered, right? When Aghasura's pastime, when the Gopas walked in, Lord Krishna is for a moment bewildered. What are they doing? Why are they entering the mouth of this Aghasura, knowing fully well that he is a demon? Should I go? Should I defeat him first? How do I, do I bring them out of this danger? So he's bewildered. But that emotion, our acharyas say that they increase the loving exchange between Krishna and his devotees. Krishna, Krishna exhibits these emotions out of prema. That prema is part of Chit Shakti, which is Krishna's internal potency. So there is Krishna's internal potency, there is prema, the hladini or the loving exchanges, and then the emotions that are coming from that. So all of that is in the transcendental realm, which is absolute. So the reason that our acharyas say that is, just like when you go to a diamond, when you buy diamond, right? Like diamond is insignificant, it's round and it might seem white, but they put it on a nice velvet cloth, like a red cloth or a black cloth, and so it shines through. So this play of contrast is given for that, for enhancement. So what they are saying is that this, even though it is tiny, tiny bit, but Lord Shiva did experience this little bit of a hurt. And the nature of material qualities is that it drives us away from the Supreme Lord. That is its nature, right? So Lord Shiva is in contact with the material modes, and we heard so much of glorification, right? In the many weeks ago, we spoke about him. When Maharaj was here, he spoke about him, Lord Shiva. During Shivaratri time, we heard. So in that sense, he is an absolutely transcendental personality, and yet he has this service of touching the mode of ignorance for a certain specific service. And so there is an impact, even though the impact is minimal. And so my teacher was telling me that that impact does not result in gross exchange. Like for example, when Daksha spoke so harshly in an uncultured fashion, Lord Shiva doesn't come into that. He doesn't respond grossly. But there is a subtle impact, there is a subtle pain. And my teacher was also saying in that regard, like for example, when Jad Bharat was chastised by Rahugana, Rahugana uses extremely harsh words, right? And uh, Jad Bharat felt a little bit of a pain. Even though he was in Bhava Bhakti, he was, we can say from that past time, Jad Bharat was detaching himself so strongly from the modes, right? Like, he didn't want to hear, speak, say, act in any way. That's why he was acting like a madman. In that sense, he was completely pulling himself from the three modes. And yet there was a small trace, a small tinge of that hurt. So now what Lord Shiva is telling is, Sati, you are telling me that you want to go and visit your relatives. Very well, that is true. You can go visit your relatives, friends, and family if they are loving. But if they are a fault finder, the results could be quite the contrary. Last time I went there, remember? 1,000 years ago, I went there and I was insulted. This time, if you go, you might be insulted. And you will not be able to tolerate it. It'll be hurtful to you and it will bring upon destruction. So, this is the starting point of where Lord Shiva is going to counter everything that Sati has so far spoken about. So, I just wanted to make this last few comments. And so, there is a specific word that's used here. I was intrigued by that word in this verse, and that is manyuna, anger. And 331:29 as well, this word manyuna is used. With the growth of the body, the living entity, in order to vanquish his soul, increases his false prestige and anger and thereby creates enmity towards similarly lusty people. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, in reply to this question, Lord Krishna said that it is lust which causes a living entity to glide down from his exalted position to the abominable condition of material existence. This lust circumstantially changes into anger. Both lust and anger stand on the platform of mode of passion. Lust is actually the product of mode of passion, and in the absence of the satisfaction of the lust, the same desire transforms into anger on the platform of ignorance. When ignorance covers the soul, it is the source of his degradation to the most abominable condition of his hellish life. There is a similar verse, right, in Bhagavad Gita 339. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So, what Lord Shiva is trying to impress upon Sati is that yes, he is your father. Yes, he has loved you all along, but that's not his current position, right? We hear Daksha Prajapati, he is an expert. He's an expert in creating progeny. And so that is his primary activity, is to be engaged in sex activity. So Prabhupada writes in this purport that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sensual enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by constant supply of fuel. In an ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increase in duration of material existence. Therefore, this lust is symbol of ignorance by which living entity is kept within this material world. So, the point I wanted to bring about was that we are talking about three personalities here today. One is Daksha. That is his position. He's consumed by this lust, and then we heard how this lust is transformed into anger, right? When you desire something separate from Krishna, you don't get it, you become angry and you get upset. What Daksha wanted was prestige and power and recognition. And when he saw that his own son, the son-in-law, Lord Shiva, wasn't so-called not respecting him, he became angry. And now that anger is only going to show up on Sati. Right? So that is our personality one. The second aspect of my today's talk was I talked about how Sati put forth her points. She gave 13 reasons. And primarily we focused on two. She said how Lord Shiva was beyond the modes, and she said that it wasn't her adhikar. So she wanted to go because she feels that those are her relatives. So then we finally spoke about Lord Shiva, and where our Acharya is now this topic is beyond my understanding. He's extremely exalted, and yet we hear that he has a small tinge of more of ignorance touching him, and therefore he is hurt, and therefore he is reminding Sati that, hey, that is your father, and he's a fault finder. So don't go. Don't go because you'll be hurt by what he's going to say. So that was a little summary, a quick summary of what I just spoke. We have a few minutes to the hour. If anyone has any points to discuss, please do so.
Hi, Mataji. Wonderful. What can I say? I want to hear more and more from you. Actually, the class was so nice. And actually, it is noticed by Shiva, and it is good to warn Sati also, right? Because the quality of person is such, and same thing happened later also. So he can foresee what is going to happen. And you can take it in a loving way also, right?
Yeah, he's not just he's going to hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Now I was saying that the next 10, 11 verses, he's going to say different reasons to try to, because she put forth
Hold
her
her.
reasons.
Mm.
he is also going to say, but he's starting with this point. He's starting with
Yeah,
saying, you are
yeah.
attached to your father, but the
He's trying
outcome may
to
not
get
be
the
out of love. Yeah.
yeah. He's trying to dig the history back and keep in front of her. Yeah, what happened before and that's so nice, Mataji. Nice points, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna
Thank
Prabhu.
you so much. It's such a nice class, as she was saying, Pali Mataji. So I think you really very nicely analyzed and put the whole thing in right in a key 3 points or three topics or three personalities that you talked about it. Uh, I was thinking about even the Lord Shiva you quoted about Jada Bharat. Right.
Mm.
I don't, I mean, because Jadabharat doesn't say even until that time, right? Whatever happens, he doesn't respond or do only to Maharaj Raguna. We were hearing that in the Aruna Mataji's class yesterday also. I mean,
Mm.
that is the only time he chooses to respond or he chooses to give mercy to Raguna. I don't, I mean, because the other way, that way we were looking until now, right? I mean,
Right.
but I mean, of course, there is when somebody offends a great personality, in this case Lord Shiva, right, got offended. I mean, Daksha offended. I mean, the it is going to be there, right? I mean, of course, Jada Bharat, I mean, multiple times people were treating him, mistreating him so badly, right? But he was not kind of responding. But when the time came or when he wanted to do something, he did it. But even in this case, I mean, he wanted to, I mean, as Valimata was saying, I think he wanted to give the, he wanted to support or help Mother Sachi, right? I mean, to not to go through the challenge that she is going to go through by disobeying or by not disobeying, I would say, because she was kind of approves or asking to go, ask her to go, but then because she was kind of so much nagging, right? Kind of if I should
Mm.
use the word or not. So uh, yeah, so that way it actually happens. But then, I mean, of course, even to Krishna, when somebody does something, I mean, of course, he gets that feeling, right? I mean, it's not that he doesn't get, even though he's supreme personality of Godhead. If somebody says something bad to him, right? I mean, I don't know because the modes and all we were talking about it, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
you were talking about when he is in fear or when that what is his name, Jarasandha. I mean, multiple times he tries to.
Right.
Right, I mean, because Krishna says when the time comes, okay, now I need to do something to him, right? So I mean, I was just thinking, I mean, of course there is a difference between the Lord and the normal person. I mean, even in this great person like Shiva. One second, somebody is calling office one. Yeah, so but I was just thinking, I mean how we are looking at it. So from that perspective, it may be true. I mean, she was still under the tinge of modes of nature compared to unlike Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna. But I was
Mm.
just thinking, I mean, it depends on because he's not going to react the way that normal person does it, right? Of course, he's a great person, like very very tinge you mentioned, but even that, right? I don't. I mean, because he's a transcendental.
Yeah.
I was just thinking from that perspective because he wanted to give the mercy in the case of Jadabharat. He wanted to give the mercy to Maharaj Ravguna. That way I was looking at it. Even
Right.
he
Right.
can always choose not to respond even in that case. He's not getting impacted by that. But I don't, I mean, that impact, getting impacted or giving the mercy, right? I was just thinking from that perspective. You want to sharing any comments, Mataji? Or?
Actually, my teacher was quoting these two verses, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.23 and 7.9.37. And basically the he was saying some point which is beyond me. I needed some time to digest it. But basically what he was saying that yes, it is true that Lord Shiva is doing a service
Hmm.
when he is getting angry or when he's destroying demons. uh, there are two ways to look at what he does. One is he's in that mood of service, but then the second is also he is uh, there's this verse, right? Ekala Ishwara Krishna Arasa Babhritya. So he's in that position of a servitude. So in that sense, he takes up the service of touching the mode of ignorance. And so
Hmm.
therefore he is affected. So you can also like what you're saying, is he acting on the mode of ignorance? I mean, is he acting this way because he's touched by mode of ignorance, or is he acting because he's taken it up as his service? So I was listening to Maharaj also, and I couldn't understand it. So it is beyond me. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, even Jada Bharat, like if you look at it, I read through that those chapters, Canto 5, chapter 10, 11, and 12. What we hear is that, we hear that he is tolerant, we hear that he's speaking because he is merciful to Rahugana, but yet we hear that he felt a little tinge of hurt. Now, how do we understand somebody who's transcendental? I don't know, Prabhu. And in
Mm.
fact, even in that purport to text 15, uh, yeah, it says Lord Shiva is Atma Rama. He's situated in complete self-realization.
Mm.
But he says, but because he's in the incarnation of in charge of mode of ignorance, tamoguna, he's sometimes affected by pleasure and pain of the material world. How do we understand this, right? He's Atma Rama, he's transcendental, and yet he is affected. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Sure, no, no, I was just thinking, I mean, even the Krishna from that perspective, right? I mean, I mean, from material, it's not material, but then you mentioned it, right? He also
Yeah.
has transcendental thing, right? So I was just thinking from that perspective. Anyway, I think, thank you, Mataji. I think,
Actually, I think that the key to your question lies in the next sentence, Prabhu. So Prabhupada says the difference between pain and pleasure of this world, material world, and that of spiritual world is that in
mm,
the spiritual world, the effect is qualitatively absolute.
okay, okay.
And therefore, one may feel sorry in the absolute world, but the manifestation of the so-called pain is always full of bliss.
Mm.
So again, these are very sublime topics, and I don't understand them. But like Prabhupada says, Krishna shed tears. It is not to be considered in mode of ignorance, for the incident is full of transcendental pleasure.
Mm.
My teacher again was saying another pastime where Shalva attacked Dwaraka and he acted as if he killed Vasudev and Krishna was bewildered. How do we understand that? Krishna being bewildered, does he not know? Like the same with Aghasura pastime, right? But I was reading in this Nectar of Devotion, how there is that uh, vi- mm, those what do you call, like the prompts which increase his love for Krishna,
Mm.
right? There's, uh, Vibhava, and anyway, I don't have the terms, but Sthai Bhava and all of that, like all of those, the qualities of Krishna come out and they bring about the love for Krishna. So the cause may be this, but the effect is love for Krishna, right? Like if I can say that.
Mm.
That is how I understand. But yeah, this is a little bewildering. You know how Lord Shiva is transcendental and yet he feels a little bit of hurt. How does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I just remember Mama Maya Duratyeya.
Yeah.
It is impossible to understand.
Yeah. And so I brought about the verses to show that I quoted 7 9:37 and 1 to 23. I said about Ekala Ishvara Krishna, and that is to show that Krishna is a cut above the rest. Krishna and the Vishnu Tattvas, right? So there is no way we can compare what he is feeling or what he is doing to anyone else, any other category, be it Shiva Tattva or obviously Jiva Tattva. So that's what I wanted to point out. Okay. I think we are over 6 minutes over the hour. Thank you all for coming and for your comments. Hare Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare
Hare Krishna.